Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that like and subscribe button for me. And for those of you who are my continued followers, I want to say thank you. And I try to bring you interesting commentary that either are great, interesting crime stories or things that are taking place in our country and around the world from a social, cultural, or social economic standpoint. And I think for most of my viewers, people have probably heard about the shooting that took place at Joel Osteen's Houston mega church last Sunday, right before the Super Bowl. And I wanted to wait a few days, see what the true storyline was, let the story get some legs before I talked about it to my followers. And so today is Friday. It's snowing here in St. Louis. The weather went from 65 and 70 2 days ago to now it's snowing and is in the upper 30s. That's the Midwest and the St. Louis weather for you. So, what we know about the woman who fired inside a Houston megachurch. A woman who fired a rifle inside a Houston megachurch last Sunday and was killed by law enforcement had a history of mental illness, a string of arrests spanning nearly 2 decades, and family who had previously sought help from authorities to prevent her from accessing weapons, according to interviews and court documents. So this young lady has had a troubled past for a long time, and it just came to fruition and exploded last Sunday, the day of the Super Bowl. Authorities say 36-year-old Genesse Yvonne Moreno walked into the famed Lakewood church just 6 miles from downtown Houston Sunday afternoon and started shooting, wounding one man before turning her AR-15 towards officers. According to a search warrant, she was shot and killed by law enforcement acting in self-defense, the warrant says. Her 7-year-old son, whom she brought with her, was shot in the head and taken to a hospital. Houston police said it is unclear who wounded the child, and CNN has asked police for more information. He was in critical condition on Monday when they took him to the hospital, and Houston police did not provide an update on his condition when reached by CNN on Wednesday. So as a couple of days ago, her son was still alive. He got shot in right at his frontal lobe, which is the front part of his cortex of his skull and brain. So authorities say they were investigating what may have motivated Moreno'S rampage and whether mental health issues or a recent argument with her ex-husband played a role. Court documents, social media posts, and details revealed by law enforcement paint a picture of a woman who struggled with mental illness for years. I tell you, one of the 5 or 6 pillars that is tearing down and is becoming very fragile in our American system, and I'd always talk about the top 3: mental health issues, opioid crisis, homelessness. She had undergone a bitter divorce and custody battle for her son and had a slew of run-ins with the law. So mental illness is right here at the top. She has been lashing out and showing signs and symptoms of having some mental fragility and mental breakdown, and nothing has been done about it. Investigators found 2 firearms on her at the time of the shooting, including an AR-15, which police said she legally purchased in December. Her former mother-in-law alleged the family had repeatedly attempted to get help from both law enforcement and child protective services to help avert a tragedy such as the one that unfolded last week. And so here's what we know about Moreno. She was hospitalized for schizophrenia, an affidavit alleges. Moreno had a documented mental health history and had been placed under an emergency detention order by Houston police officers in 2016. She had a breakdown back in 16. That doesn't mean as a Monday morning quarterback that you could forecast 8 years later that she would have a shooting spree at a public place, but she was showing signs and symptoms of mental fragility. She was fragile. Houston Police Department Homicide Division Commander Christopher Hassig said during a Monday news conference, according to state law, a person with mental illness can be detained when they are at substantial risk of serious harm to themselves or to others. In 2022, Moreno's former mother-in-law, Wally Carranza, unsuccessfully petitioned a court in Texas, Montgomery County to be declared the conservator over Moreno's son. So she wanted to take conservatorship over Moreno's son because she was seeing that Miss Moreno was having some problems. Miss Carranza wanted to be declared the conservator over Miss Moreno's son, Sam. Sam is the boy who was shot in the head Sunday, who was with his mother, Carranza said. In an affidavit filed in court related to that petition, Carranza alleged a psychiatrist had placed a red flag warning on Moreno in 2016 after she had been hospitalized with schizophrenia. Carranza alleged in the same document that she had found a gun in Moreno's things in 2020 and took it to the police in Colorado when they were living in Colorado, where Moreno was staying with Carranza at the time. To have it confiscated because of the psychiatrist's warning, Colorado has laws that aim to prevent people who may pose a risk to themselves or others from having guns. So Colorado has a law where they can remove that weapon from that individual if they are having red flag warning for psychiatric issues. CNN has attempted to reach Carranza for an interview. Carranza, who wrote on Facebook on Monday that Moreno had in the past taken medication for schizophrenia, and said in the same court document that Moreno's mother told Carranza she was afraid of her daughter's violent temper. So Moreno's own mother was concerned. She was a beautiful and fine young lady before, and then she stopped taking her medication. And we asked for interventions for her many, many times. She was hospitalized many times. She was violent many times, Carranza told CNN this week about Moreno. There were red flags for about 6 years, and we raised them and we flew them high, and nothing was done. Mental illness and mental strife has been historically ignored. And I think part of the reason is because it's not something that you can see and diagnose on an x-ray. But there are signs and symptoms physically, psychologically that you can see. But for some reason, we don't take mental illness very serious like we take heart disease and diabetes and cancer. We asked for help from Child Protective Services, CPS. We asked for help from the police and received it many times, but she was still allowed to own guns, Carranza said. It's unclear whether and how Moreno responded to the allegations in the court documents and why Carranza's conservatorship effort was not successful. But in a LinkedIn post, a user with the name Genesse Moreno appeared to respond to the conservatorship request, repeatedly linking to Carranza's LinkedIn page and accusing her of slander and defamation. So Moreno did not like her friend Miss Carranza speaking of her mental illness. Moreno also applied in 2022 for a protective order against her ex-husband, alleging he threatened her and again her former mother-in-law alleging harassment. The cases were dismissed when Moreno didn't appear in court. Moreno should never have been allowed to own firearms, Carranza wrote in her Facebook post. Texas has no red flag law, also known as an extreme risk protection order law, that would allow authorities to take weapons from a person thought to be in crisis. The fault lies in the Child Protective Services in Montgomery County and Harris County that refused to remove custody from a woman with known mental illness that was not being treated, and with the state of Texas for not having strong red flag laws that would have prevented her from owning or possessing a gun, Carranza wrote online. A spokesperson for Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, which oversees the state's Child Protective Services, said CPS officials are investigating the shooting alongside law enforcement. It's always after the fact. Why weren't you there as an intermediary and mediating and conflict resolution for this scenario when Moreno was having these breakdowns and not taking care of her son? And she'd been hotlined several times for child neglect. It said at this time, DFPS cannot provide additional information because specific details of investigations are confidential according to the law. And so what did the neighbors say about Miss Moreno? Neighbors say they had raised flags about shooters. All of these red flags all over the place that the system was not paying attention to. On social media, Moreno, who most recently lived about 40 miles north of Houston in Conroe, Texas, described herself as the founder of a real estate and financial services firm. CNN was not able to find anything matching Moreno's name in Texas real estate license records. A March 2020 social media post shows a screenshot of a form letter from Lakewood Church thanking Moreno for her donation. Houston's police chief was asked Monday whether the shooter had a connection to the church, and he said it was under investigation. Records from the Texas Department of Public Safety show Moreno, who was born in El Salvador, had a string of arrests for minor offenses over the past 20 years. Including possession of marijuana and an assault, illegal possession of a weapon, and a forgery charge. In the court transcript of 2021 divorce proceedings in Harris County, Moreno's ex-husband said the two met in 2015 and he was seeking a divorce because his wife had turned violent and had a total disregard for her son, who was 3 at the time. In the transcript, he referred to Miss Moreno as Jeffrey. Moreno had in the past used both male and female aliases, including the name Jeffrey, but had always identified as a woman. So she identified as part of the LGBTQ community. And initially, when it first happened, when the first 24 hours, there were people saying that it was a transgender person that did the shooting. And then, of course, when she was fatally wounded and got to the hospital coroner's to the morgue, the coroner said that she was biologically a woman, and then it was verified that she had given birth to her son. So sometimes it's not good to jump on a story right away until you find out really the meat and potatoes of it, and sniff out all of the rumors. So their divorce was transferred to county court and finalized in Montgomery County in 2022, according to CNN. Moreno's ex-husband lost custody of Sam once a divorce was finalized, according to the affiliate. It's unclear what led to the court's decision, but I will tell you what part of that reason is in a minute. In the court documents relating to Wally Carranza's petition to be declared Sam's conservator, remember that's the lady that she was staying with in Colorado, Carranza alleged Moreno's son was born more than 3 months prematurely with drugs in his system and accused Moreno of refusing to give him the proper care that he required, including not feeding him properly or teaching him how to use the bathroom, and not taking him to critical speech and physical therapy appointments. So the kid was born with some physical and intellectual disabilities because Moreno had been using drugs. On her social media, Moreno talked about her son's love of going to the park and wrote about taking him to art museums as a baby and how, as a young child, he developed an appreciation for art. Several of Moreno's neighbors also said in a Monday news conference she had harassed and threatened them, her neighbors. Moreno had threatened them, and they had set up a meeting about the problem with local authorities and officials about 5 months before this shooting. There's been all kinds of people, friends, neighbors, family members, ex-husbands, that have notified authorities that this woman was falling apart. One woman said she made a complaint after Moreno's allegedly threatened her with a handgun in July 2022. CNN has reached out to Conroe Police for further information. Okay, authorities investigate dispute with her ex-husband's family. Police found anti-Semitic writings connected to the shooter and are investigating whether an argument with her ex-husband's family, some of whom are Jewish, may have led to the shooting. I mentioned anti-Semitic writing. We do believe that there was a familial dispute that has taken place between her ex-husband and her ex-husband's family, and some of those individuals are Jewish, Hasig said. We believe that might possibly be where all of this stems from, that her going to Lakewood Church and committing this shooting crime. Hasig also said the AR-15 Moreno used had a Palestine sticker on it. In her Facebook post on Monday, Carranza, who is a rabbi, said the shooting has nothing to do with Judaism or Islam or nothing. But part of the reason that I think her ex-husband did not get custody, here's another caveat. So you had this scenario where we weren't sure if this person was a male or a female. She identified as a guy. She's had schizophrenia. She had multiple psychiatric issues. She showed multiple signs and symptoms of falling apart. Family members and friends have hotlined her about how she was treating her son and how she was having a mental breakdown and the system completely failed him. The other part on why her husband, the gentleman that she married, couldn't get custody, her ex-husband, here's another part of the story that is interesting, is her ex-husband, Enrique Carranza, had been previously convicted of attempted sexual assault on a child in Colorado, so he is a registered sex offender. He subsequently, so he was not part of their life at the time that this took place last week. He was living in Florida and had got rearrested. He was working in construction and got rearrested because he had not registered as a sex offender multiple times while he moved to Florida. So there are so many different layers to this whole thing that makes this story unfortunate but interesting. And the one that it hurts the most in this entire narrative is her son. For her son to be a byproduct, her 7-year-old son, who ended up getting shot in the head, his life has not had a chance. He has a mother who had a history of drug issues, who identified as being a guy sometimes, who evidently neglected him and did not show him love. Then he had a father who ended up being a registered sex offender and they separated and got divorced. So this poor kid was getting shuffled and disshuffled and being disrespected and not treated with any humanity right as the system watched. There were several indicators where Carranza's, her ex-husband's mother and other folks have tried to reach out to Miss Moreno to get her some help and to help her son. Remember, Miss Carranza wanted to get a conservatorship and basically adopt Moreno's son, and that got denied. And subsequently, you see what happened. It's hard getting a child from their mother, but this young boy ended up getting shot, 7 years old, in the head, and then Miss Moreno ended up dying as a result of the police shootout. And then the father is a registered sex offender and is in Florida and had no indication, idea of what was going on at all. So this is a very dynamic story that's taking place in 2024 that has multiple layers to it, where there's been failures on all sides of this particular storyline. And for it to end right there at Lakewood Church, at Joel Osteen's church, is a very unfortunate circumstance. And for people to witness it, there's a certain level of PTSD that goes along with watching somebody get murdered and killed, and who brings a gun in. There will need to be psychological therapy and conviction and hugs all the way across the particular board. Very unfortunate. Tried to give you a little storyline on what all took place with this young lady, 36-year-old Genesse Moreno, who ended up getting killed at Lakewood and tried to attempt a mass shooting and ended up dying by the police hands. And her son got shot in the head, and we don't know what his condition is. So let's stay prayerful for all parties, the whole city of Houston, Joel Osteen's church, Lakewood Church, and all the parties that were involved, police officers, and everybody that was involved in it. And mental illness is a real thing, and when people reach out and need help, or when you see people that need help, when people reach out and need help, or when you see individuals that haven't reached out that need help, we need to do a better, the system needs to do a better helping structure for people with mental illness. You can't see it on an x-ray, but it's a real thing, and it can lead to some very disastrous personal injuries and devastation, and it can also filter out, and a person that's having a mental breakdown could be destructive to other individuals around them. So let's build a canvas and a net and a web where we can help people, and they can have a system to where they can get the mental help that they need. Thank you for listening to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth in a positive, righteous, and God-fearing way.